In this video, I'll be considering which of my workshop machines I regret buying, would I buy them again, and if not, what would I buy instead? I saw a video by my friend Ben at the Hugh and Orr channel, exploring the same topic, and it really got me thinking about the tools that I have. I thought I'd start with my bandsaw as it's the machine I've had the longest. I bought this in November 2015, so nearly 9 years ago, for £509.99, and it's still available to buy today, priced at around £650. Do I regret buying it? No, not exactly. I went for this one because I liked the large cutting capacity of 230mm height and 350mm throat. I also wanted one with a cast iron table, and I liked that this had a dust collection drawer, because I've never really used extraction at the bandsaw. Firstly, because I've never managed to find a way to locate it close enough to where my extractors are, and secondly, because I've never found hooking up extraction to be particularly effective on this particular tool. Admittedly though, I've not yet tried hooking it up to my new 2 horsepower HVLP extractor, which I expect would do a much better job. It also has a built-in light, although I find it pretty hard to get it positioned where I want it, because it has a bit of a mind of its own. The motor on this machine is plenty powerful enough for any cut that I've ever had to make, so happy with that. So I don't regret buying it, but as for whether I would buy it again today, possibly not, for a few reasons. The biggest being that to change the blade you have to remove the fence rail, which is a really stupid design in my opinion. And because changing blades is a bit of a pain, it means I'm much less likely to do so. So I end up regularly using the blade that I have fitted regardless of the type of cut that I need to make. So for example, small blades to make resaw cuts and blades that are too big to cut things like curves. It's also the reason I never bother configuring the fence rail, which means that I can't use the measurement markings on it. Not that that's the end of the world though, because I rarely use the fence on this tool anyway. I also find the blade guide bearings really awkward to adjust. Access and visibility is really awkward, but from what I understand, that's a common problem on most bandsaws. If I were looking to buy a bandsaw today, I'd want a similar cut capacity and one that doesn't have that blade change problem, and I'd want a better guide bearing setup too. So I'd probably want to look at machines like the Axminster AP2920B or the iTech BS400 or the Record Power Sabre 350. However, all of those machines are well over £1,000, which might be more than I'd want to spend. Of course, the dream setup is to have 2 bandsaws, one permanently set up for resawing cuts and a smaller one set up with something like a 6mm blade for curves, but I don't feel I can afford the space for that. This is my table saw, and while it's no longer available from Axminster, I believe it's basically exactly the same machine as the SIP 01332 and the iTech 01332, just with some slight variations to things like the crown guards. Back when I bought this, I'm pretty sure it was priced at around £900, but in the interest of full disclosure, Axminster did give me a discount. I did a full review video of this saw on my channel, which I'll link to below, but to summarise, I think it's a well-built workhorse but with poor dust extraction, and it's very basic. It lacks a lot of the features that most users would want on a table saw. So things like an adjustable height riving knife and a toolless removable insert plate. So over the years, I've spent an awful lot of time making modifications and upgrades to this machine, all of which have been covered in various videos, which I'll leave links to below. With those changes and upgrades, and with 2 extractors hooked up to it, an HVLP connected to the cabinet and a vacuum extractor connected to the blade guard, I am reasonably happy with it. I love the cast iron table and the extensions, the quiet induction motor and the build quality. Do I regret buying it? I'm kind of on the fence on that one, to be honest. Would I buy it again today? Actually, I'm on the fence with that one too. The Lumberjack TS 1800, which I was fortunate enough to try out for a while and review in another video on my channel, has all the features that I would want in a table saw, and I think it's a fantastic option and offers excellent value for money. But back when I tried it, it had an electrical issue, meaning sometimes when I turned it on, it would trip the electrics. And prior to filming this video, I wrote to Lumberjack to check if that issue had been resolved, and they confirmed that it has. Just by the way, if you're interested in buying any tools or accessories from Lumberjack, you can use my promo code RAGANDBONE to get 5% off. That helps me to continue to make videos like these. Thank you. I had a really difficult time deciding whether to keep the Lumberjack and get rid of the Axminster, or just stick with the Axminster, and ultimately I decided to stick with it mainly because of laziness, as I didn't want to have to remake all my table saw jigs. I have quite a lot of them, and I'm not one of those woodworkers that enjoys making jigs. If I was looking to buy a table saw today, because it's the machine that I use by far the most in my workshop, and especially now that I'm also using it for crosscuts, having gotten rid of my miter saw about a year ago now, there's a video about that too, I'd consider increasing my budget to get all of the features that I want, but to be honest, I haven't really looked at what options are out there at the moment, mainly because I'm happy enough with this saw, so I guess I don't really want to be tempted by what I might find. I do know though that Axminster's newest lowest priced cast iron saw, the AP254SB, has what appears to be an improved fence design, a better mitre gauge, a blade that tilts to the right instead of the left, and I think it takes dado blades too, if you like that sort of thing. However, it still has an insert plate that secures to the table with pesky machine screws, which for me, and I'm sure for many others, is a major annoyance. No height adjustable riving knife as far as I can tell, and I've also read that it's still badly designed for purposes of dust extraction. It's surprising to me that a company that seems to be refreshing their line of machines on a very regular basis haven't yet picked up on those pretty obvious, highly desirable features yet. The AP254SB is priced at £1,800, which is double the amount of the price that this saw was when I bought it. So if my budget was less than £1,000, I would absolutely buy the Lumberjack TS1800, and I think I'd be very happy with it. All this talking is thirsty work, and I'm one of those unusual British people who don't drink tea or coffee. So during the day, I tend to just drink squash, which gets pretty boring after a while. So when a company called Holy got in touch with me and asked about sponsoring a video, I asked for a sample to see if I liked it. They sent me their starter pack, which includes a box of their energy range, a box of their hydrate range, and a box of their iced tea range. And I'm down to my last few sachets now because I've really been enjoying the flavours. So then I got some of their tubs, which contain 50 servings. My favourite of which is the Thai Lime Toucan. You just add 1 scoop to 500 millilitres of water, some ice cubes if you want, give it a bit of a shake, and enjoy. I've always loved citrus flavours and this tastes great. Also, it contains no sugar, no taurine and no artificial flavourings. Each serving costs less than 80 pence and contains less than 20 calories. If you'd like to try the starter pack, use the promo code RNBB5 for £5 off your first order with a minimum spend of $14.99. Or you can use the code RNBB for 10% off. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And now back to the workshop. On to dust extraction, and this is my vacuum extractor. I also bought the HEPA microfilter to go with it, which upgrades it to an M-class extractor. It has dual motors, so it's nice and powerful. And it's been 7 years since I bought this now. I spent around £900 on this combination, so it was pretty expensive, but Pneumatic is a brand that I've always been really fond of. Not a sponsor, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. And it has proven to be reliable, well made, and one of my favourite things about it is how quiet it is. At a distance of 1 metre, it measures just 66 decibels. Both the extractor and microfilter are still available to buy today, but you'd need to spend around £1,110 thanks to the magic of inflation. Are there cheaper options for twin motor vacuums available? Yes, absolutely, but I'm not sure if any of them are available with M-class level filtration. Do I regret buying it? No, not at all. At the time, I saw this as a bit of a lifetime purchase because when things on this wear out like the motors, replacements are available and easy to fit. And I've actually replaced the motors already, but not because they wore out or anything, but for something that was entirely my fault when I had a bit of a workshop accident a few years ago. I won't go into detail on that now, but if you want to find out more, I'll leave a link to a video about it in the description. Would I buy it again today? I don't know, it's difficult to spend over £1,000 for an extractor, I think. But I think I would definitely miss it if I had to buy something else. Also now it's only available in a bright red colour other than the grey. And if you're interested in buying anything at all from Axminster, I'm also an Axminster affiliate. I'll leave my referral link in the description box below. Thank you. Then there's my HVLP extractor, which has a 2 horsepower motor. And as you can see, I've got it configured as a 2-stage system. I've got a video all about that too. I upgraded to this from the Charnwood W796CF, which was a 1 horsepower extractor, as I needed more airflow to handle the chip extraction from my new planer thicknesser, which I'll talk about later in the video too. For full disclosure, SIP sent this to me at no cost to me, and I'm reasonably happy with it apart from one really annoying thing, which is that the cartridge filter doesn't fit the housing properly at all, even with the provided adhesive foam strip that comes in the box. And so I've had to add loads of gaffer tape around it to make it airtight. Otherwise, every time it's switched on, it exhausts plumes of dust into the air that I'm breathing, completely negating the point of even having a cartridge filter fitted to it. I just can't understand how or why problems like this exist, things that surely should have been picked up when being tested by the manufacturer. Do I regret buying it? Well, as I said, I didn't buy it, but if I had bought it, even though that poorly fitting filter is a major annoyance, and even though the same extractor can be purchased from other suppliers like Draper, Sealy, and Fox, I think the other one was, I would imagine that no matter what brand name is on it, they probably all have that same problem. And so I wouldn't necessarily regret buying it. Would I buy it again today? Yes. This is the lathe that I got around 10, 11 months ago when I decided that the lathe that I had previously was way bigger than I really needed. It was taking up way too much space considering it's a machine that I don't use all that often. For full disclosure, it was sent to me by Lumberjack at no cost to me. I've only used it a handful of times, but I've been really happy with it. It fits my occasional wood turning needs perfectly, and it sits in the corner taking up very little space. As I always do when looking to buy a new machine for the workshop, I made a spreadsheet and explained my thought process in a video, while whittling down all the options to 2 machines that I thought met my requirements the best, and the Lumberjack was the cheaper of the 2. So ultimately it's the one that I would have bought had Lumberjack not offered to send it to me for free, and I have no regrets choosing this model, and if I didn't have it, I would absolutely buy it again. This is my planer thicknesser, and it's the machine that I bought most recently other than the SIP extractor, which I bought specifically to extract from this machine. This was priced at £2,028 at the time I purchased it, which was about 8 months ago now. And once again, for full disclosure, while I did buy this machine with my own money, I received a discount from Scott & Sargent, who I purchased the machine from. And this is the machine for me that has been the most difficult to decide whether it was a regret or not. Originally, I was really happy with the machine, although there were 3 issues. The first was setting up the tables to get everything dialed in perfectly for accuracy, which proved to be quite challenging, mainly because of a lack of setup instructions included. But I eventually got all that figured out with the help of some YouTube pals. And by the way, this was all documented in the video I did about the machine. The second issue was the terrible performance of chip extraction when in planer mode while connected to my 1 horsepower extractor. So when I upgraded to the SIP 2 horsepower extractor, only to find that the extraction was still terrible, I did some troubleshooting in another video, and that's when I found out that the extractor wasn't the problem. The problem was the design of the area surrounding the cutter block on this machine. And the solution I found was to tape up all the gaps with some adhesive backed foam tape, which significantly improved things. I'd say it made extraction at least 90% more effective. The third issue, however, is the one that I'm unable to fix, and that is a small amount of movement in the bed while a board is being fed through the machine in thicknesser mode, which I showed in the video reviewing this machine. That movement results in a small amount of snipe on the boards, but it also makes running multiple boards through the planer at the same time problematic, because when that movement in the bed happens, often the motor will stall because it goes from removing a small amount of material to suddenly removing more than it can handle when that bed tilts. At the time, I thought it was an issue that I could live with. I thought I'd be happy just running 1 board through at a time, and the snipe wasn't something that bothered me so much. When I spoke to the supplier of the machine about the issue, I was told that it was normal for a machine at this price point to have a small amount of movement in the bed, but having since run hundreds of boards through this machine, it's gone from being a minor annoyance to quite a major one for me, especially because with my previous machine, the Electro Beckham HC260, which is a much lower end machine retailing at less than half the price of this one, I was able to feed multiple boards through at the same time without any issues. So now I find myself wondering whether I should have gone for the Charnwood P10S, which was my other favourite option back when I was making spreadsheets and researching the planer thicknesses that were available at the time. The Charnwood machine appears to be exactly the same as the iTech, but with a different cutter block. So chances are it has the same problem, but I'm keen to hear from anyone who has either of these machines, as I'd like to understand whether I bought a lemon or not. Hello, Editing Keith here, just with a bit of an update. I thought I should try and contact Scott & Sargent again about this issue, and they asked if I could send them a video showing the movement in the planer bed so that they could show it to their engineers to see if it was a problem or not. And the video that I sent them is the one that you'll see on screen now. And they basically said that doesn't look right at all, and they're going to arrange to collect my machine and deliver a brand new one. And I've got to say, I wasn't expecting that at all, especially after I've had the machine for so many months now. Anyway, I really wanted to add this into the video because it's not often that you experience such good customer service nowadays, and I think it's important to call it out when you do get good service. So yeah, basically I'm going to get a pallet, send the machine back, get a new one, and hopefully that will be problem solved. But I'll make sure that I give some sort of update in a future video. If I push that issue aside though, it's been an absolute dream to use in comparison to my previous machine, and I'm consistently getting excellent results from it now that it's dialed in. So Do I regret buying it and would I buy it again? If all the iTech and Charnwood machines have that same fault with the movement in the bed, then I guess I'd just have to live with it, because as I said, my experience with everything else about this machine has been really good. But if I've bought a lemon, then I want to know, and I will probably need to look into getting it fixed or possibly even getting a replacement. Finally, I wanted to talk about the Festool DF500 Domino, as I think this is a bit of an interesting one. I bought this on second hand for £550 about 5.5 years ago, at a time when I was focusing much less on content creation and more on doing woodworking commissions. So at the time I saw it as an investment, a way to make joinery more efficient and less time consuming, whereas now I'm focusing much more on content creation and much less on commissions. In fact, in the last couple of years, I think I've only done one actual paid for commission, and that was mainly because I knew it would make for a great video. Anyway, what's interesting about the Festool Domino specifically is that if I were to sell this on eBay today, I could actually make a significant profit on it. They are regularly selling second hand for between £700 and £800, even though they're years old. These are machines that don't seem to depreciate over time, and I think that's because Festool seems committed to increasing the price of all their machines on a regular basis to a point where I think they are well overpriced. And for that reason, this is the only Festool tool I've ever really been interested in having. And while it has proven to be a good investment, maybe it's a personal thing, but I don't want to buy into a brand of tools that is so overpriced, regardless of how good they might be. Do I regret buying the Domino? No, definitely not. I've used it loads and it's saved me a hell of a lot of time. Would I buy it again? Absolutely not, mainly out of principle, because these machines are just not worth the current £900 retail price, in my opinion. And the sooner that Festool Domino patent ends and other brands can start bringing out competitors to it, the better, in my opinion. Thank you for watching.